300 days of the rug war in Sinaloa. Peace is in the hands of the criminals. On Sunday, July 6th, Mexico surpassed a milestone that should have never existed. 300 days of the war in Sinaloa. By the time this text reaches your phone, it'll be 307 days. Right now, it's more than that. And the other terrible milestone is 365 days will inevitably be reached at a rate of 6 to 8 unalivings a day. More than 1,500 terminations, at least officially acknowledged, and more than 1,800 missing in the toll that grows every day. These are the daily aftershocks of the earthquake that caused the collapse of the Sinaloa cartel, once the largest criminal organization in the country and probably in the world. A framework that suffered a crushing blow in January 2016 with the definitive capture of its leader, Joaquin El Pocha. And that began to shake a year later with his extradition to the United States. The vacancy generated a vicious fight. On the one hand, the sons of Los Chapitos claimed the criminal organization as their inheritance. On the other, the longtime members, El Yoma and El Juano, demanded it based on their seniority in the cartel. All were willing to use their hammers to defend their case. The structure was shattered on July 25, 2024, when Los Chapitos deceived El Yoma and handed him over to U.S. authorities in exchange for benefits and protection. That day, the Sinaloa cartel collapsed, and although for 7 weeks there were efforts to unite what was already rubble, his fall became official on September 9th with a series of clashes in Culiacan, the state capital, which generated psychosis and anxiety amongst the residents. The war had begun. No more white flags. Now there are only irreconcilable factions with disparate interests. Tribes that were once united and now hate each other to termination. There's no cohesion, nor will this ever be. After more than 300 days of war, there are 5 important lessons we must learn. Peace depends on criminal groups, not the governor.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
This guy right here is a dirty, rotten fucking scoundrel. In the days following Yoma's snatching and bringing him to the United States, this guy was all over the place showing face. All the way up to when we heard about the, I think we heard about the C4 command center that was tapped in to governmental cameras. And then it went all the way until Sinaloa stood up and they went to the governor's office and they tried to throw a couch through his wall. After that, I ain't seen this motherfucker.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
I ain't seen him. I heard a rumor. You know, Velez told me he went and got a haircut and shit, you know what I'm saying? But I ain't hearing nothing else about this motherfucker, man. This motherfucker right here, he got some payments pending. Aren't the other cartels more brutal and ruthless? Might be bad if this is true, or all of them the same. If you ask me, they're just more extreme in different areas, if that makes sense. But it's all the same oppression. None of them just want business. Don't you understand that the power is more appealing than even the money, than even the product? The power is intoxicating. He's as corrupt as the rest of them. Might as well put a hammer in his hand, and a gold one with some titties on it, and sit him in a Lamborghini and shit. You know, might as well, right? That motherfucker's in the game. He's branded. He done gave up the keys to the castle, you know. But this guy right here, I ain't seen him since they tried to put a couch through his wall.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
I ain't seen him. If y'all seen him, you let me know. Velez said there was a site. He's like a Bigfoot. Fucking roach. Roach is up in the chat for the fucking roach. Politicians, boy, they're the shit that people think the villains in movies are some made up shit. Nah. 1. Sinaloa, as in many other states in the country where an organized crime group dominates the territory, the current governor is a mere mediator. Mere mediator.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
If you ask me, he's less than that. His work in matters of public security is very limited. Those who truly command the pacification of the state are the criminal groups. Almost a year ago, Francisco Labastida, the former governor of Sinaloa, told me in an interview in his office in western Mexico City, peace in Sinaloa depends on the mood of criminals and not on the capabilities of the authorities. The same was said, in other words, by then commander of the 3rd Military Region based in Mazatlan, Francisco Jesus Leana Ojeda, when questioned by local reporters last September about when the war would end. It doesn't depend on us. It depends on we read that, we reacted to this. It doesn't depend on us. It depends on the opposing groups that they stop confronting each other and leave the population alone so they can live in peace. Said then the highest ranking military officer in Sinaloa with extraordinary frankness, Governor Ruben
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el
Rocha
Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el
Moya,
Rocha?
a.k.a. the Roach, at his side nodded in agreement. This also has to be understood by business people, journalists, and states searching mothers who have given up seeking protection from local authorities and prefer to mediate with organized crime. This is what Delia Quiroa, founder of the March 10 Collective, who has been searching for her brother Roberto, who disappeared in Tamaulipas since 2014, does. A few weeks ago, she made history by winning a district judge position in Sinaloa. Those are the people that make change. And unfortunately, these fucking animals go and they take them out. Like Don Alejo, like Santa Miriam. What we want is for them to respect our lives and let us search for our relatives. For people to stop disappearing and finally for the cartels to reach a peace agreement. Delia repeated, echoing the voice of the searching mothers, like Ceci Flores, who echoed their desire aloud. For the cartels to reach an agreement. For them to decide to put away their weapons. In Sinaloa, public safety, or the lack of it, is the work of organized crime, not the authorities. Sometimes one and the same. Organized crime is a parallel army. We sensed it in the first Culiacanazo fiasco, the failed attempt to arrest Ovidio Guzman's son of El Pocha. We learned it during the second Culiacanazo, which did result in an arrest, and we confirmed it in the war. Organized crime in Sinaloa has paramilitary responses. This isn't just a drug cartel, but a criminal organization with an enormous capacity for immediate and violent reaction using pre-tested tactics and military-grade weaponry that rivals the armed forces' material resources. It has been a gradual evolution that occurred before our eyes. Crime stopped being comprised of hammermen rehearsing in the mountains and now hires Colombian mercenaries with experience in counterinsurgency to train new recruits. It is the professionalization of violence, the paramilitarization of crime. A pattern of recruitment of these types of profiles by criminal groups in our country has been detected, so we are already communicating and coordinating with Colombian authorities to prevent these activities from continuing, said Secretary of Citizen Security Omar Garcia Harfouk last month. Most of these Colombian mercenaries have impressive resumes. Supported by the United States, they've studied combating guerrillas and clandestine groups at the Pentagon or the School of the Americas and have trained at military bases in the Middle East, such as the United Arab Emirates. They teach young people in Culiacan the most widely used paramilitary techniques we have seen in recent months. Coordinated blockades, pincer ambushes, use of tactical vehicles, technological surveillance such as installing their own video surveillance cameras at the city's entrances and exits, hit and run attacks, dispersal and regrouping, dissemination of false information, and psychological intervention through intimidating and demoralizing messages. These motherfuckers got too much time on their hands, man. 3. For years, Sinaloa lived in a strange tranquility due to its relationship with organized crime. Thousands of residents assumed that by living alongside the cartel, they would be safe from violence. As I was told by a local journalist whose name I must not mention, we kept telling ourselves that since the rug traffickers and their families live here, the city would be safe from violence. We were terribly wrong. It's a phrase I've heard over 15 years of covering organized crime. They live here. That's why they take care of us. Their family is here. Nothing will happen to us. The rug traffickers take great care of their neighbors. Phrases that the cartel itself prepared to be repeated like a lie told 1,000 times that becomes true. AKA miss me with the bullshit.
No mommy's wait.
AKA I'm going to throw this party for the community, you know. I'm going to buy these turkeys. And I'm going to throw this big party, feed everybody, and I'm going to take a look at y'all's 15-year-old daughters and see which ones I want to take with me. That's what it seems like to me. It's a phrase I've heard over 15 years of covering organized crime. They live here. That's why they take care of us. Their family is here. Nothing will happen to us. The rug traffickers take great care of their neighbors. Phrases that the cartel itself prepared to be repeated like a lie told 1,000 times that becomes true. Crazy. One of the Culiacan's prides was that the city was protected against the right to operate fee. The Sinaloa cartel, its residents said, would never allow this abusive tax imposed by organized crime. On the contrary, if someone wanted to extort a business, all they had to do was report them to the nearest plaza boss, and the payment would be canceled. That changed with the war. Any armed conflict is expensive. Every day, thousands of pesos are spent on ammunition, weapons, gasoline, repairs, salaries, and bribes. The accounts keep bleeding, so the money comes from somewhere. Organized crime broke its promise, and at the end of last year, the extortion charges began, both from the chapitos and the hats. The collection was a mortal blow to hundreds of businesses which were barely surviving due to the lack of customers caused by the unofficial crew. So basically, these guys are more brutal, and these guys are more, inhumane, or a different kind of inhumane, like we spoke about earlier. Fuck what the old man was talking about. Now it's taxation without representation around this bitch. We'll do the taxation. We're not going to let nobody do the taxation. We're going to do that shit. Sound like a scene from New Jack City. CMB giving out turkeys and shit. But instead, these guys are, watching your 15-year-olds. They said, fuck all that old school shit. Extortion. We getting everything. Has the business of trafficking not suffered over this kind of war? I thought I'd see the effects of that immediately. Maybe I'm not in the loop. I don't know what the price is. An army conflict, expensive. Gas, repairs, bribes. The accounts keep bleeding, so the money must come from somewhere. Broke its promise at the end of the year, and the extortions began from both sides. The collection was a mortal blow to hundreds of businesses which were barely surviving due to lack of customers caused by the unofficial curfew. That's it. They turned on the people. Who I told you was going to lose this. Same people that always lose in war, the people. And they losing. Immediately they started losing. All old deals are off the table. The same has happened with organized crime's supposed moral code of not attacking women and children. The most serious breach of that promise occurred last January when an armed group unalived Gael and Alexander, two boys aged 9 and 12, in cold red liquid, prompting the first major march in Sinaloa against the war. This is the march which was the last time we saw.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
We never saw that fool again. Cartels break promises when their interests are affected. Oh, we know that. People say, oh, the fall of that started when the twins did this or that. And it could have started when Chapo put Mochomo in jail. And it could have started before that with the whole Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo situation. It could have started be all that. It was a situation that was destined, they're all destined to fail, and then another one will rise up. JP pleads the fifth.
Mono con los ojos tapados.
Peace on the street depends on peace in the cells. 4. The violence in Culiacan is fueled by a prison controlled by organized crime. The Alguarruto prison in the capital of Sinaloa, where escapes of high-risk inmates are common, and organized crime orchestrates massacres and snatchings from its cells. All right? They running shit from the walls. They ain't got to be in the world to run it. From May 21st to the 30th, authorities conducted a surprise inspection and found an arsenal. 598 bolsitas, 318 cell phones, 165 magazines of various caliber, 140 cartridges, 113 cell phone cards, 62 long hammers, 40 radios, 18 mobile broadband devices, and a 5-meter deep and 15-meter long tunnel connecting the prison to the outside, among other illicit objects. That's a hell of a fucking raid, huh? That took a long time to accumulate all that shit, huh? When was the last time they checked for anything in that joint? And who called for that raid? So the chef is basically saying they ain't been the Sinaloa cartel since 2010. They just been one side or the other. The inspection responded to a reality that no one can hide. The Aguarruto prison is another center of operations for organized crime. In fact, during the first Culiacanazo, October 17, 2019, when a video was captured and subsequently released, 47 inmates escaped to reinforce the street revolt and pressure the withdrawal of the armed forces. Since then, it's been an open secret that the Chapitos and the Hats gangs enter and leave the prison at will, using it as a hotel, weapons depot, telephone extortion center, rug warehouse, and for some even as a hideout. The war in Sinaloa is also sustained by this prison, which authorities refuse to intervene or even close, as happened with Topo Chico prison in Nuevo León, which had to be demolished to prevent the Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas from continuing to use it as a war room. The conflict in Sinaloa teaches us the importance of adequately managing prisons. If the state loses them, organized crime takes them anyway. In the rug trade, grievances aren't just settled, they're inherited. 5. More than 1,500 unalivings in less than a year have left Sinaloa with its wounds open. And amongst this bloodbath are the orphans of this armed conflict who lack a state policy to prevent them from entering organized crime to seek revenge. For the moment, the state government only recognizes and grants scholarships to minors who are indirect victims of femicide. The aid amounts to just 4,000 pesos every 2 months, provided until the orphans turn 18. According to the latest public information, only 27 minors are beneficiaries. Oh, way to help the children. Way to help the children, government of Mexico. Government of Sinaloa, fucking Rocha.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
That shit frustrates me. 27 minors, and they say, yeah, they get their bonuses and shit, but 27 minors, we took care, we gave them 4,000 pesos every 2 months. What's 4,000 pesos, y'all? For war victims, there's no financial support, only brief psychological therapy to address temporary crisis, and public defenders who are overwhelmed with so much work. Worst of all, no one knows today what will happen to those children and adolescents who grow up in rage and helplessness after witnessing the unaliving of their family members and who will seek to take justice into their own hands. I mean, what else they got? Nothing to look forward to. Just scroll through social media to find this feeling on the surface. On TikTok, for example, the revenge scenes involving the character Jose Maria Venegas from the television series El Señor de los Cielos are filled with comments alluding to what's happening in Sinaloa and the preparation by several people to exact an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth for the unalivings in the war. And there's a lot of people that are on the internet just talking shit. But there's a lot of people on the internet that in that lot of people, you pull the numbers, you're going to get a percentage of them that's they're going to go out there and they're going to end up on one of them videos that we watch where they're on their knees and they're telling the camera who they worked for and how they betrayed them. And then it's going to be over for them. Because they're disposable. Shout out Grease Junkies. He said like 200. JP said 213. 27 of them. Good job. Good job, Rocha.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y
You
el
fucking
Rocha?
devils.
Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
All you politician devils.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
They should put all those motherfuckers in jail.
You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail.
The war in Sinaloa has been going on for more than 300 days. If we don't intervene now with the orphan children and adolescents, we can see conflict that will drag on for several generations. That shit been happening in Chicago ghettos and in Mexico forever. Blood vendettas. 27 kids, and they say, yeah, we spent the money in the right place. 27 kids get $200 every 2 months. What a fucking joke. The people, man. The people been suffering for 300 days. It's crazy that it's about to be a year that got snatched, man. We've been right here. Rest in peace, Chucky Chingon. Out of power. Mobs are like some football teams. Some got their eras like Cowboys, Patriots, and then they fade away. It's just what it is. There's no legendary, we've been in the game for 100 years. You know who that is? You know, the Colt family. You know, weapons manufacturers and military weapons manufacturers and armor manufacturers and these people that get these government contracts, and those families been around 100 years. But as far as those crime families been around 100 years, the Rockefellers, this one, that one. But as far as, organized crime, like the mafia, they go the way of the dodo bird. Or they turn into something different. When I say the war, I'm talking about the shit that started 300 days ago. I'm talking about the shit that started after they snatched their old man, where everybody thought it would happen the next day. They'd be bathing in blood if they snatched them. It's called planning. It's called stacking your chips. It's called loading your hammers. It's called putting on your war paint, saying goodbye, and going to war. That's what that was. And everybody wanted it to happen the next day. No way. We're in a generation now where we can show our kids what it looked like. There's no lack of video in the gore section of our Discord of young kid realizing he done fucked up.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
And stating his plea before he passes away, which probably ain't even his own words. We got to show these kids these videos. Hey, man, that could be you tomorrow. But Rocha, you paying 27 kids $200 every 2 months. Y'all ain't shit.